find her, and this though she was betrothed before. Now as the lad went along he met a man who had white bear skins for sale. So he bought one of the hides and put it on, and one of the captains was to take an iron chain and lead him about, and so he went into the town and began to play pranks. At last the news came to the king's ears that there never had been such fun in the town before, for here was a white bear that danced and cut capers, just as it was bid. So a messenger came to say the bear must come to the castle at once, for the king wanted to see its tricks. So when it got to the castle, everyone was afraid, for such a beast they had never seen before. But the captain said there was no danger unless they laughed at it. They mustn't do that, else it would tear them to pieces. When the king heard that, he warned all the court not to laugh. But while the fun was going on, in came one of the king's maids, and began to laugh and make game of the bear. And the bear flew at her and tore her, so that there was scarce a rag of her left. Then all the court began to bewail, and the captain most of all.
"Stuff and nonsense," said the king. "She's only a maid. Besides, it's more my affair than yours."
When the show was over, it was late at night.
"It's no good your going away when it's so late," said the king. "The bear had best sleep here."
"Perhaps it might sleep in the ingle by the kitchen fire," said the captain.
"Nay," said the king. "It shall sleep up here, and it shall have pillows and cushions to sleep on."
So a whole heap of pillows and cushions was brought, and the captain had a bed in a side room. But at midnight the king came with a lamp in his hand and a big bunch of keys, and carried off the white bear. He passed along gallery after gallery, through doors and rooms, upstairs and downstairs, till at last he came to a pier which ran out into the sea. Then the king began to pull and haul at posts and pins, this one up and that one down, till at last a little house floated up to the water's edge. There he kept his daughter, for she was so dear to him that he had hid her so that no one could find her out. He left the white bear outside, while he went in and told her how it had danced and played its pranks. She said she was afraid, and dared not look at it, but he talked her over, saying there was no danger if she only wouldn't laugh. So they brought the bear in and locked the door, and it danced and played its tricks. But just when the fun was at its height, the princess's maid began to laugh. Then the lad flew at her and tore her to bits, and the princess began to cry and sob.
"Stuff and nonsense!" cried the king. "All this fuss about a maid! I'll get you just as good a one again. But now I think the bear had best stay here till morning, for I don't care to have to go and lead it along all those galleries and stairs at this time of night."
"Well," said the princess, "if it sleeps here, I'm sure I won't."
But just then the bear curled himself up and lay down by the stove, and it was settled at last that the princess should sleep there too, with a light burning. But as soon as the king was well gone, the white bear came and begged her to undo his collar. The princess was so scared she almost swooned away, but she felt about till she found the collar, and she had scarce undone it before the bear pulled his head off. Then she knew him again, and was so glad there was no end to her joy. And she wanted to tell her father at once that her deliverer was come, but the lad would not hear of it. He would earn her once more, he said. So in the morning, when they heard the king rattling at the posts outside, the lad drew on the hide and lay down by the stove.
"Well, has it lain still?" the king asked.
"I should think so," said the princess. "It hasn't so much as turned or stretched itself once."
When they got up to the castle again, the captain took the bear and led it away, and then the lad threw off the hide and went to a tailor, and ordered clothes fit for a prince. And when they were fitted on, he went to the king, and said he wanted to find the princess.
"You're not the first who has wished the same thing," said the king, "but they have all lost their lives, for if anyone who tries can't find her in 24 hours, his life is forfeited."
Yes, the lad knew all that. Still he wished to try, and if he couldn't find her, 'twas his lookout. Now in the castle there was a band that played sweet tunes, and there were fair maids to dance with, and so the lad danced away. When 12 hours were gone, the king said,
"I pity you with all my heart. You're so poor a hand at seeking, you will surely lose your life."
"Stuff," said the lad. "While there's life there's hope. So as long as there's breath in the body, there's no fear. We have lots of time. And so he went on dancing till there was only 1 hour left. Then he said he would begin to search.
"It's no use now," said the king. "Time's up."
"Light your lamp, out with your bunch of keys," said the lad, "and follow me whither I wish to go. There's still a whole hour left." So the lad went the same way which the king had led him the night before, and he bade the king unlock door after door till they came down to the pier which ran out into the sea.
"It's all no use, I tell you," said the king. "Time's up, and this will only lead you right out into the sea."
"Still 5 minutes more," said the lad, as he pulled and pushed at the posts and pins, and the house floated up.
"Now the time is up," bawled the king. "Come hither, headsman, and take off his head."
"Nay, nay," said the lad, "stop a bit. There are still 3 minutes. Out with the key, and let me get into this house." But there stood the king and fumbled with his keys to draw out the time. At last he said he hadn't any key. "Well, if you haven't, I have," said the lad, and he gave the door such a kick that it flew to splinters inwards on the floor. At the door the princess met him, and told her father this was her deliverer, on whom her heart was set. So she had him, and this was how the beggar boy came to marry the king's daughter of Arabia. End of section 29.